Greetings. Yeah, thanks to Sadie Branham, she picked up the CD from the AVP today. Hasn't gone through it yet. So yeah, there's a lot more than what we've seen on online. That's awesome. Can't thank Sadie enough. Um, yeah, that's really awesome. I just want to leave her a line there. So very happy that Sadie was able to get. She got a lot of stuff. There's like one of the documents is like over 700 pages. So I want to thank her as well, and then go through all this. And this is just awesome. I mean, it's a no win situation. Nobody wins in a situation like this. It's not like but the thing is just to get people closer to whatever the truth is with David Crowley, whatever really happened. That's all we're trying to do. I mean, um, we can if we can look out for any possible uh, facts that will just help us understand the truth. All that we've been getting is a lot of games and just a lot of people, um, not being truthful or telling half truths or trying to just trick people. So that would be, yeah, it would be great to know what actually happened to them, and I do think we are gonna get there. So trying to figure out a way here. I should have logged in before I did this because so Sadie was able to get 4 documents so far, and it sounds like she has more, and she's gonna upload those too. But the main three that she got here, aside from the 740-page document, whatever's in there, looks like a lot of AT&T stuff, a lot of phone stuff, and she probably asked the right questions. So I was really happy that she was asking the right questions on that. And she got the medical examiner's office autopsy reports. And I'm just looking at this for the very first time, and I'd like to encourage everybody to look at it. And we're going to make sure that everybody who wants to look at this stuff definitely can. I've added these 3 autopsy reports to my website, but if you want to see them right now, you can. If you logged into Facebook, you can go to Justice for David Crowley and Family, and you will find in that Facebook group, Sadie has posted 4 documents, and 3 of them are the autopsy reports. This one I'm looking at right now is for David Crowley. It's 6 pages long, and I just want to see what is what is in here. What stuff do they have in here, and why it took so long for us to get this. I mean, the point is we finally got it. So we're finally getting more documents, and I think that's important. That's why it's so important to have so many people doing this, filling out the data request form, which you can also find in the file section of the Justice for David Crowley and Family Facebook group. But if you want to read these documents right now, if you want to download them, please go and see them there. And we'll make sure that we post them. We'll make it as easy for everybody to get to, no matter what. And the more documents that we get, we'll do the same thing. Um, if I get any documents, the only thing that I would do is just take out people's phone numbers or where they live, things like that. But so please go and read those. I'm gonna read them now. I just am kind of looking through them here with David Crowley. Um, Gunshot wound to the head. Entrance is undeterminate, so they don't know where it entered, and who knows? Maybe that's because of how little of David's skull was actually found. That could be why. So let's see. The exit. Oh, but they do have the exit. Okay, so pathway and trajectory indeterminate, which is very important here because if the bullet that was found in the living room ceiling, if that is the bullet that killed David, then shouldn't the pathway and the trajectory show that? It should, right? Something should. Okay, but the exit is the left per- parietal bone with external beveling and radiating linear fractures and scalp. So you have to read that too. But recovery is none. They didn't recover any of that. Well, they okay. Um, Early to moderate decomposition and evidence of animal scavenging. No natural disease. Toxicology. Spleen volatile screen. Ethanol 0.109 G slash DL with non-propanol and decomposition peaks present. So I think there's in the Facebook group there's some people that are going back and forth talking about what that means. I definitely don't know what that means, but I'm going to be very curious to see um, what what these toxicology reports that we finally have what they actually mean on a much deeper level. Basically, what we're looking for is were they intoxicated after 3 weeks of a body being found? Can you even show that something is intoxicated and on and on? So that's definitely an interesting point there. I am gonna try to. I was trying to keep up with some of the chats here. I don't know if this will allow me to. Let's see. Don't think I can see any of the chat. That's too bad. Oh, there it is. Okay. Um. Yeah, please go and check that out. I hope that really helps for people. Liver drug screen. Oh, okay, so Teeny 42's just Teeny 42. I think it means the body produces ethanol as a part of decomposition. Interesting. So I'm wondering if you have looked at this, if anybody has looked at it, what are you seeing here? What are we finding? Are we finding evidence of drugs? Are we finding evidence of alcohol, intoxication, pills, anything that might help people understand the whole theory that David Crowley went crazy and killed himself and his family. Liver drug screen negative. No basic or neutral drugs present on chromatography. Yeah, it's okay. So doesn't sound like too much. The autopsy is conducted in the presence of Sean McKnight and Brian Bone. Okay. Identification. A medical examiner's identification tag is attached to the body bag and is labeled with appropriate case identifying information and recorded physical features. Okay, we know this. This just looks like the bag is sealed. Let's see. The body is cool. Well, of course. Early to moderate decomposition is evidenced by skin discoloration, marbling, slippage, blistering, and mummification of the left hand and feet. Interesting. Early to moderate decomposition. I wonder what that means because we were told, police, when they saw this stuff, of course, they're not medical examiners, but when they saw this, they saw the bodies, all three bodies were in a later stage of decay. So the decomposition thing is something I've been asking a couple friends of mine on too, to kind of see what their view is on it. And it seems like you about 5 days or so. After 3 weeks, I think the body, I think it after 1 month, the body begins to liquefy. But I think within a couple weeks, like it's hard. I don't know. It's hard to imagine that what we're seeing here, what they're being told, early to moderate decomposition. So I'll be curious to see what are some other people's views on that. 128 pounds when they found him. Um, the body is that of a well-developed 70-inch long, 128-pound male. Post-mortem animal scavenging is evidenced by absence of the majority of the head and neck, apart from the posterior calvarium, and overlying scalp, posterior neck, skin and soft tissue, and cervical spine. In the absence of the right hand. So that it's kind of that definitely matches what the police said, that you couldn't see anything pretty much but the some of the spine, some of the cervical spine there. So that's post yeah. So I mean, it sounds like they're blaming the David's skull. They're blaming the animal for eating all of David's skull, basically for eating most of it. Obviously, some of that damage had to have been done by the bullet, right? The posterior scalp is intact with patchy short brown hair. Fragments of skull and additional small bones recovered separately from the body at the scene are described in a separate section below. Well, isn't that interesting? See internal evidence. I need to read that again. Fragments of skull and additional small bones recovered separately from the body at the scene are described in a separate section below. These must be very, very small pieces. Probably those, I'm just guessing, those small pieces that we saw in some of the living room photos that showed, just very minimal. You almost couldn't even tell that they were bones if you didn't really know what you were looking at, but they definitely were. The chest is symmetric. The abdomen is flat. I don't want to read that. The back, okay. Let's see. The left hand is initially sealed in a paper bag, right? Upper arm and forearms are symmetric. The right hand, wait. The left hand is initially sealed in an evidentiary paper bag. Are they saying that David had a paper bag over his left hand? Am I reading that right, or am I just crazy here? Or yeah, what? Why would it be an evidentiary right? Maybe it's an evidence bag. I guess. Okay, I don't know. Anyways, the right hand is absent. The distal right forearm shows intact, smooth edges of the radius. And a regular da da da. Okay, the left hand has intact digits and is partially mummified. Ooh, that's disturbing. The fingernails are short and well maintained. Dried drips of red brown blood like material are on the dorsal left hand between the thumb and the first finger. The lower extremities are symmetrical and intact. The toenails are long but well maintained. All right, so that's kind of one of the things that I would assume we could use for a timeline, right? We could use the toenails, fingernails, more so the fingernails, I would think. But um, all right, so that's page 3 of David's. Page 2. We're only on page 3 now. Okay, they talk about the tattoos that are there. He's got, looks like he has like one, two, three, four, five tattoos. Clothing and personal effects are on the body. Okay, so he's wearing a short sleeve shirt. Dark green to red stains are on the collar, sleeves, and middle of the left side of the shirt. Okay, so then it just goes into what he's wearing. The stains, the blood stains that are on there. See, defects, front and left lower. Goes into the pants, sweatpants. Pants are covered with dark green to red stains, present in numerous short white hairs. Those white hairs, those short white hairs, could be the stuffed animal that was found in the living room area too. The black and brown leather and rope leg bracelets encircle the left wrist. Okay. Okay, so here's the internal evidence that they were talking about. This is going to be pretty important here. Examined separately from the body at the time of autopsy from a sealed brown paper bag labeled bone fragments near. Let's see, multiple fragments of bone and hair. Okay, so there were. Okay, preserved natural teeth. So well preserved natural teeth, no metallic restorations is present. Let's see, 1.5 to 14.5 centimeter maximum dimension. Skull bone fragments articulate well with each other and with the remaining covarium on the body of the decedent. Defect. Okay, so it's just talking about the bones, the actual bones, more detailed. The remaining bone fragments are irregular. I want to see where were they found though. Am I missing where these other bones were found? Doesn't really say. Just led to assume they're found. I'm assuming they're found right next to it. So, but the these bones that they're talking about here are not the you know. Okay, let's keep going on. Left of the scalp, left shoulder, irregular edges. Gunshot wound to the head. So they got this report, the gunshot wound to the head, and this report was made. Looks like day was this. This was made or signed at least on Jessica Lelinski, the medical examiner, the deputy medical examiner, signed it on 2/23. So February 23rd, 2015, a few days after they had found the bullet hole and the bullet in the living room ceiling. So that's interesting. When they talk about the gunshot wound to the head, I don't know. Okay, the entrance gunshot wound site and trajectory are indeterminate due to absence of the majority of the head. Okay. So how do they know that the bullet came? How do they know that the bullet shot into the living room then? How do they know that's not a separate bullet? Why are they saying that this is the bullet? This is the bullet that killed David. Why are police saying that it's the bullet that they found a month later inside of the Crowley house, when this clearly shows the entrance gunshot wound site and trajectory are indeterminate due to the absence of the majority of the head? The police walk into the house, see that most of the head is missing, most of the head is gone. This report is clear. There's no way to tell the exit wound or anything, or the entrance wound. But by the exit wound, they can tell that it came from the living room ceiling. That just seems weird. It just, to me, it's just more strange things that don't add up when you're talking about the living room bullet hole that leads into the attic that police missed, but that this is supposed to be the bullet hole that, or this is supposed to be the bullet that David shot himself with. Well, how do they know that? How could they possibly know that? All right, so with the head, the absence of the brain apart from the scant liquefied material, a majority of the skull due to animal scavenging as previously described. Okay, so that means the dog ate the brain and ate a lot of the skull. Alright, skull fractures of the remaining bones are previously described. See the neck, okay. Absence of the skin, soft tissue, muscles, hydroid bone, thyroid, okay, and everything else is gone due to animal scavenging. Okay, so all that's due to the scavenging of the animal. Alright. The skeletal muscles are tan, pink, and soft, but of appropriate bulk. Alright, the bony skeleton, apart from previously described skull injuries and artifact, due to animal scavenging. A lot of this is due to animal scavenging. Even, okay. Let me just try to read this. The ribs. Okay, the ribs, the sternum, the vertebrae bodies are visibly intact. Body cavities, Goes into that. Organs occupy usual. Nothing there. Respiratory system. The right and left lungs weigh 250 and 300 grams respectively. This is okay. No mass lesions. Okay. Nothing. They don't find anything there. Cardiovascular system. Doesn't look like they're seeing anything there. What else? Vessels. Yeah, RIP for sure. Oh, there's no actual cause of death. We're gonna read this and see no actual cause of death. Or let's see. Why put the bag on his hand? Yeah, maybe the bag. Maybe it's just the way that the person who saw the bodies that they had that the bag was put on the hand by the medical examiner's office or something. It doesn't mean that this is the way that the medical examiners saw it, but so that needs to be cleared up because some of the other things, um, yeah, that just needs to be cleared up. So I'm gonna just say for now, I'm just gonna guess that the reason that the bag was on the left hand is because the bag was put on at the crime scene. So I think that's what I'm gonna try to make sure is correct or incorrect. Okay, then they go into the liver, the spleen. I saw somebody talking about the spleen. The spleen has a smooth and intact capsule. The exposed bone marrow is unremarkable. Pancreas, usual. So it goes into that. I don't necessarily need to read every little thing here. I'm just really looking here. This is the first time I'm looking at this. So toxicology. Okay, specimens retained for toxicology testing are liver, spleen, and muscle. So there's no mention of any alcohol or anything like that I see here, unless somebody else is seeing something different. This looks like this was all done on 1/21/15. So depending on the date when this form was filled out, this could be before they even had the bullet that they were going to claim David killed himself with. So I think that's kind of odd. I think that's right, actually. And they never go, well, they wouldn't need to clarify it because the medical examiner. But, all right, so that's David's. I don't see anything, unless somebody else sees something about drugs or them being intoxicated or anything like that. I'm not seeing anything that shows that they were. Maybe there is. Maybe that's what some of that that medical mumbo jumbo is. But that's important mumbo jumbo. It's what's going to tell us if there was if they were intoxicated and if these reports after 3 weeks can actually show that. So I think in the Philip Marshall case, they did find that I think the daughters they had a light sedative, and it might have even been like a sleeping pill or maybe a little bit of alcohol, but um, and the bodies were found a couple days later after the murders happened in the Philip Marshall case, where Philip Marshall was accused of killing his two teenage children and then killing a dog, a family dog, and then killing himself. And there's a lot of similar things in these cases. I will say, uh, both of them were talking about. I wouldn't say anti-government stuff, but they were talking about real truthful issues, real things that really mattered. 911, Philip Marshall was talking about. David Crowley talking about a government takeover, the New World Order, all that stuff. For me, both of them, I think they both were half right, and I think they both were kind of using it to do their own thing. But that's just a complete guess from someone who was not a fan of either of those two gentlemen. But still, I was just someone who was looking to see what the evidence was that would prove Philip Marshall guilty and that would prove David Crowley guilty. That's a clear bias. It's a clear bias on my part that I started with. So That's twice I've done it. Hopefully, next time I won't be so naive. But here is now I'm going to go through the medical examiner report for the wife. And if you want to read this stuff yourself, like I said, we're going to make sure everybody is able to get these links. You can go on to the Justice for David Crowley and Family Facebook group right now, and you can download those links. They're probably still you know, populating up to the top of the group list. But for anyone who wants to look at it and who we're gonna put that out there. So I'm really happy with Sadie who was able to get these documents and put that out there. All right, so let me try to go through these two. This is why I'm not a big Apple fan. So now we'll go to the I have these three reports I have updated to my website. On my article, The Gray Stage Number 8, David Crowley Research Document. So they are there that you can download too. But I think you can, without having to sign in or anything like that, I think you can get them from Facebook right now, from the Facebook group. So, all right, so we went through that one, and we go through Camille. It's pretty disturbing stuff. I mean, and it's like none of this would have had to have been done. We wouldn't be sitting here talking about this. We wouldn't be sitting here researching this stuff if the police had just done their job. If everybody in this case had just done their job. So I hope that the Apple Valley Police Department, that the Dakota County Sheriff's Department, everybody learns from this. Whether you did anything wrong or not, or whether you were a part of it, we can all learn something from this. And the one thing that we haven't been able to learn is where's the evidence to prove David Crowley guilty. So we'll still go there, still stay there. All right, so I'm gonna go through this with Kamel. Gunshot wounds of the head, two identified entrances, left posterior parietal region involving skull and brain. Okay, the trajectories for that they have left to right and back to front. Interesting. Left to right and back to front. Almost like two different directions. So left to right, back to front. Interesting. That's hmm. That's very interesting because obviously left to right you would think is a hostage situation. That's the first thing that I would think. Um, back back to front is an execution. So th- we got two very big things there that the police and the medical examiner noticed fairly quickly within one day. They noticed this. They noticed these things. So they should have also noticed David's uh, where the bullet hole was and all that. They should have noticed that. They should have noticed something with David, or they shouldn't have jumped the gun and said that David shot himself or anything. Okay? Because that would mean that there's still a killer or some killers or some group of killers out there. And I think if nothing else to help prove that there isn't one out there, we just needed all of this data. And we haven't gotten all of the data that we actually need. There's still a lot more that we need, but this is what we got. So I just encourage you, please go and look at those documents and just everybody sees something different and everybody helps. Let's see. Okay, so she sustained a gunshot wound injury to her head. Okay, along with other family members, two identified. Got that. Animal. This is a very short one. Animal scavenging and decomposition with marked disruption of the head, neck, and upper extremities. Okay. Toxicology, spleen volatile screen, ethanol 0.1 134. That's very important to know. The toxicology thing, I hope that becomes. It looks like it already has being. It's already being talked about in the group right now, and I hope it becomes its own thread. If it's not its own thread, it's a very important piece here to see what we're looking at. The liver screen, the liver drug screen, something positive for Sialit, SALICYLATE, uh, chromatography negative. So again, I doesn't mean anything to, obviously I'm going to go and look it up and I'm going to go find out what that means, but right now I don't know what that means. So, and I'm sure other people in the group are talking about what that means right now, and that's great because that's what we're trying to figure out. Okay, autopsy. Okay, now we're going to the preliminary examination. Just talks about how they found her. Sounds like most of the head and the hands are missing. She reveals. Now this is saying most of the head and the hands are missing. Okay, she reveals decomposition changes. Decompositional changes. There is extensive bloating, skin slippage, and discoloration of the body surfaces. They didn't. I don't think they didn't say bloating about David. So that's interesting too. Decompositional changes. All right. Wavy dark hair is recovered from the right sock and is placed in an evidence envelope. Okay. Wavy dark hair is recovered from interior left leg. Why is there hair there? There's hair on the right sock and the left leg. All right. Bone fragments are received. That contains multiple bone fragments. All right. That white cotton is there again. White cotton debris. Um, amongst this bony material are two mandibles. One shows numerous restorations. In addition, there are two fragments of bone with 2 and 4 teeth. Okay. There are 5 other additional teeth as well. There are multiple irregular. Sorry, there are. This thing. The teeth. There are multiple irregular fragments of bone that range from 1.2 to 8 centimeters. There are larger fragments that appear consistent with skull. Okay. Many of the fragments reveal linear appearance consistent with fragmented digit bones. Okay, then it goes into the clothing, how she was found, she was wearing. Let's see, the front sweater, the left sleeve appears phrase, otherwise it is intact, stained with blood. Okay, so you can read all that. She was wearing a Gray State T-shirt at the time. Damn, that's that's really interesting. Hmm, could be nothing. I don't know. I just find that weird. She was wearing the shirt. Hmm. Pair of gray sweatpants. Alright. Tans woman corset. Bloodstain on the front. It is moist with decomposition. Okay. Alright, I don't need to read all that. And we can read this stuff too. And just that might help us understand um, why David would do this, or where is the evidence that David did this? Anything. Okay, so Gildan. I wonder what Gildan. There's a separate label that states Gildan on it. I'm not sure what that is. No Gildan. Maybe some clothing thing or something. Aspirin probably for a headache or something. Yeah, it could be aspirin. Could be anything. I mean, but after 3 weeks, like how long does aspirin? How long does that stuff stay in your system? How long does alcohol stay in your system? It could be just because they didn't find anything doesn't mean you know. I don't know. Identification. Okay, dental records. So they were able to identify Kamel by dental records and comparison of tattoos. All right, provided by the AVPD. The available body appears apparently well nourished. The height and weight are recorded as 5 feet and 85 pounds, respectively. Lividity and rigor are not discerned. What does that mean? If anyone can tell me what that means. Lividity and rigor are not discerned. They said that with David too. I have no idea what that means. So, and yes, we have people we can ask, and it's no problem. But I'm just asking the question. That's all. I'm not gonna act like I know what they're talking about when I don't. The head consists of a portion of skull which includes most of the left occipital bone and portions of the adjacent left parietal bone. Okay. The scalp is absent. That's interesting because I know a lot of people had mentioned there was a lot of hair, a lot of Camel's hair found everywhere, and the scalp is absent. That's an interesting. Okay, and it's further described below. Good, because we need more information on that. The neck is stable. Most of the anterior soft tissue is absent. Again, what does that exactly mean? The hyoid bone and sorry, I need to change my screensaver settings here. When the cartilages are not present. The chest is stable, extending downward from the neck region onto the central chest is an area of discrete dark brown discoloration. Okay. Alright, nothing else. They're not finding anything else wrong with the body. Okay, let's just say that. The skin, soft tissue, and bony margins are irregular. Alright, page 4. The feet are complete. The posterior body surfaces are intact and described elsewhere. Okay, so they got the tattoos. Looks like she had 3 tattoos. Entrance wound. Now we're getting to the wound. The way she was shot, and I guess it's nothing we shouldn't have already known or been able to figure out, but the way she was shot is very interesting. Okay, entrance wound. This is located at the edge of the remaining left bone of the skull, 6 inches from the top of the shoulder and 1.5 inch left of the posterior midline. Okay, it is consistent with a 1.5 centimeter rounded, inwardly beveled defect. Soot powder and stripling are not seen. Linear fractures are associated from this in the wound described below. If we have anybody who knows any coroners, morticians, anybody who's dealt with this stuff and can kind of, without being an asshole about it, can kind of help us understand what we're reading here, that would be great, you know. Let's see, rigor is stiffness. Okay, cool. Yeah, the stiffness on that. that still gets me because I've only seen two dead bodies in my whole life, and one I distinctly remember the stiffness. Okay, let's see. Exit wound is indeterminate, so they don't know where it exited. So who knows? Like, the exit could be the bullet hole in the living room, right? Who knows? At this point, pathway. This extends into the skull and brain. Two shots to the head, left to right, front to back. Left to right, front to back. Okay. I thought it was the other way around when they said earlier. They said to go back and look at that. Left to right, front to back. Where did I see somewhere it said something different? Maybe it was very early on. Yeah, so if you go back to page one, on page one, left to right, back to front. But then on page four, left to right, front to back. All right, thanks. Projectile none recovered at autopsy. Gunshot wound to the head. Entrance wound. This is also located at the edge of the remaining left parietal bone of the skull, 1.5 inches from the top of the shoulder and 1 inch left of the posterior midline. Consists of a rounded, inwardly beveled defect measuring 1.7 times 1.3 centimeters. Suit powder and stippling are not seen. Exit wound is indeterminate. Pathway just says this extends into the skull and brain. Trajectory left to right, front to back. Nothing else recovered. Okay, I think that's about it for the wife here. The remaining portions of the head consist of the posterior skull. Okay, the neck. So part of the neck is absent due to apparent animal scavenging. All that remains is the exposed and intact cervical vertebral column. Vertebral column. Okay. Heart is generally intact. That looks good. Respiratory system. Lung field are free of consolidation. Doesn't look like anything weird there. Little bile. This is bone marrow. It's grossly unremarkable. The adrenaline glands and pancreas are unremarkable beyond decomposition. This is important stuff. If we could get people to read this, people who have a better understanding of this than I do, for sure. Help me understand what I'm reading here. Okay, nothing else really interesting there. Goes into the muscular system. Additional procedures, documentary photographs are taken, radiographs of the head are obtained. No projectile is identified. Okay, they got specimens. I think that's about it for the wife. Again, nothing really to say. Alcohol, drugs, anything weird in their system, anything like that. Is anybody seeing something like that? Because I'm not seeing it. We've just gone through two of these. I'm so hesitant to. I don't know if I want to really. I'm gonna go through the autopsy for the daughter, but I don't know how much I'm gonna say out loud. But I do want to go through this here. Okay, entrance to the right of the scalp and exit to the left. Projectile fragments from the left temporal skull were recovered. The trajectory is leftward, downward, and backward. Okay, from behind, I guess. Moderate decomposition and evidence of post mortem animal scavenging. Toxicology, again, ethanol 0.060. Decomposition peaks present. Liver drug screen. Immunity negative. No basic or neutral drugs present on chromatography. I'm gonna have to look at chromatography. I'm assuming that's how they tell if there's drugs or anything like that present, right? So, all right. Just gonna stand here a few minutes longer. Appreciate being here. I hope you do. If you get a chance to go and read these documents and then check out the 740 page document. I'm curious to see what's in there. Sadie has said she had more documents, so I need to get in touch with her and just thank her for that. And thank everybody. I thank everybody who has been able to, even just everyone who's been able to fill out the data request form, but also everyone who has wanted to, but for whatever reason couldn't or just hasn't done it yet. Please do. There's nothing wrong with it. I would just say I'm curious to understand exactly what Sadie asked for because it does seem like the more detail, the more specific we are in what we ask for, um, maybe we'll get more. Maybe we'll get more data. All right, so I'm just gonna skip over a lot of this stuff about the daughter, unless there's anything very interesting. Liver and rigor mortis are absent. Okay, livor, Livor, not liver. Livor and rigor mortis are absent. Early to moderate decomposition is evidenced by skin discoloration, marbling, blistering, slippage, and partial mummification of the face, left hand, and feet. Apparent canine scavenging is evidenced by absence of the right arm. Gunshot wounds and injuries of the head are described in a separate section below. All right, so again, we only have one body that is found as bloated, and the other two are in an early to moderate decomposition stage. How can that be if they were there for 3 weeks? How could it be an early to moderate decomposition? That's that's the first one. How long? How could that be? Scalp is partially covered by a long wavy brown hair. I don't know how these people sleep at night. I mean, we got a child here. We got something very bad happened in this house. Something very serious happened here. And this investigation and the way that police and the way that authorities conducted this investigation and treated it, and the way that the certain people, part of the Gray State team or David's friend, have come out and viciously attacked people for asking questions is disgusting. It's despicable. It's nothing to do with truth. Instead of really trying to understand what the truth is here, especially when you have a child involved, man. You take this seriously. You leave no stone unturned. I don't know what stones they picked up at this point. All right, I'm gonna stop before I get too. Yeah, so just read through that. Read through the daughter. If if you want. Uh, it's just, yeah, the right arm is missing. I mean, it's nothing really. It's more. It's just a more detailed version of what we already know. Maybe there's something in here that somebody will look and point out, and it'll help us get to whatever the truth is again, because that's the whole point. All right. No evidence of soot, stippling, or unburned gunpowder particles is on the skin or bone surrounding the wound. The path. The wound track subsequently went from the right bone. Okay, so went from the right into the brain and then to the. Okay, we already said that. Exit below the top of the head. Centered approximately. Okay, on the left of the scalp. So on the left of the scalp, about 5.25 inches below the top of the head. Okay, so this should give people a better understanding of that, at least. Hemorrhaging. Okay. I think that's about it here. Some of the bullet was recovered from the head. The wound direction is leftward, downward, and backward. So I'm thinking leftward, right unless leftward, downward, backward. I don't know. I don't know. That's what I'm thinking. All right. Brain is liquefied. The anterior strap muscles on the neck are red brown and without hemorrhage. The thyroid cartilage and hyoid are intact. The larynx is lined by tan red mucosa, whatever mucosa is. If there is no, this is from Bugs Nona. If there is no stippling, I don't know. Am I saying stippling? Stifling? Sorry. If there is no stippling there, then she was shot from a distance. Okay. A close-up gunshot would leave evidence. Okay, so no. Interesting. Shot from a distance. Hmm. How far of a distance? Can you tell us kind of how far of a distance? I mean, how far, how close? Okay, the tongue is intact. Yeah, I'm not comfortable reading a lot of this stuff, but the bony skeleton is intact and normal apart from previously described skull fracture. Absence of the right arm. So I guess that's the other thing about the dog. So the dog eats one of David's hands, most of his scalp, then goes over to the wife, eats her um, scalp, both hands, and then goes over to the daughter and eats the arm, something like that, something in that order, I guess. Well, if it was going to eat the daughter's arm, why wouldn't it eat the other people's arms? Because they're bigger? Well, at this point, are they? I mean, how much bigger are they? So I have to plug in here. Okay. Bugs Nona says, no, I cannot. Gunpowder and stippling would be on her body if they were close to her when she was killed. Okay, so this kind of shows us that maybe she was killed at a distance, from a distance. So, Teeny 4242. There was a defect on the skull with linear fractures. Defect means flaw or imperfection. Was this from the gunshot? Interesting. Yeah, when they say defect, that's kind of what I took to to mean is pretty much a fancy term for bullet hole, but I could be wrong. Mm, okay. Respiratory system seemed okay. Cardiovascular looked okay. Liver, slow post-mortem. Spleen, slow. Nothing any other abnormalities here. Okay, so I think that's about it. So just some information, and I think what it really shows is a lot of what people have been asking. Do the toxicology show this? Do the toxicology show that? And I think we got the answer. It's no, it doesn't. What does it show, really? What does it show that, that would help us find out whatever happened here? Fingernail clippings from the left hand and pulled head hairs are placed in separate labeled sealed envelopes. I was wondering about the pulled hair because there's pulled hair mentioned in the 485 page document. There's pulled hair mentioned next to in a section with David. There's pulled hair mentioned in a section with Raina. There's not pooled hair mentioned in the section with Kamel, which is interesting because most of her hair is missing. And as we just read, one of them even said the scalp, the scalp. There's no scalp, so I don't know. All right. Besides that, that's it. That's really it. There. I'm gonna go through all of the other documents there, and I would just encourage anybody else who wants to go ahead and go through that. And yeah, when it's pulled hair, the one thing that I was thinking about pulled hair, aside from a struggle or a fight, could be that from the dog. Maybe the dog pulled at the hair, right? I don't know. I don't know what else would make sense unless a human being is pulling at the hair. It would have to be a dog. The knife that was found is not mentioned. Well, obviously, it wouldn't be mentioned here, but it's very rarely mentioned about the knife that was found in the area where the bodies were also found too. And was somebody using that knife? Were they gonna use that knife? I think that was another question. So, all right, everybody, thank you so much. I'm gonna come back here very, very soon. Um, Feel free to go ahead and uh, join the Justice for David Crowley and Family Facebook group if you're not already a member there, or if you just want to keep up to date on what people are finding. I think Sadie just proved, hey, we keep asking for documents, and eventually, hopefully, we get them. We got more now, so we got a lot more documents. Thanks a lot. I'll chat with everybody later. God bless you all.